Let's go. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We have a unique situation this year in that Pesach begins straight after Shabbos. That EREV Pesach is Shabbos, and Pesach begins Saturday night. This hasn't happened for 13 years. I mean, it happened 13 years ago, and it's happened several times in history, but in recent history, it hasn't happened. We're not used to it, and it throws things out quite a bit in the laws of Pesach because there's so much preparation. There's so much about Pesach that happens before that when Shabbos is immediately before, everything is moved around quite a bit. It's a little confusing and quite detailed, and so therefore, we are going to go through step by step, day by day, and have a look at how to navigate this particular year with all of its laws. And what I'm going to do is I'll allow you to ask questions on the chat as we go along, or at the end I'll also open it up and try and address any questions you have. And I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the presentation, which I'll also make available afterwards. So you can write down notes if you want, but I will give this to you. I'll send it to you upon request. Okay, so EREV Pesach on Shabbos, a day-by-day guide. Let's go through step by step everything that is going to need to be done this year. First of all, let's go on Thursday. Thursday, we're talking about next week, Thursday. The first thing that happens is the Tainus B'choros, the fast of the firstborn, is moved to Thursday. Usually that is done on EREV Pesach, the day before Pesach, the day of the Seder. But this year it is done on Thursday. That means all firstborn males need to fast, or they can hear what's called a siyum, the conclusion of the study of a tractate of Talmud, and that requires a festive meal which overrides the fast. And that is the custom. The custom is for firstborns to hear a siyum and therefore not fast. So therefore, this next week, Thursday, all firstborn men and also fathers of firstborn boys who are under bar mitzvah. The boys don't fast, but the father is also obligated in the fast. So those men and fathers should listen to a siyum on Thursday morning. They can't eat before they hear the siyum, and then they they don't need to fast for the rest of the day. We will be having at Nefesh a 7 o'clock service followed by a siyum next Thursday for those who want to join that. And then also on Thursday, you need to be preparing the house for Bedikas Chametz, the search for Chametz, by sweeping, mopping, and performing all last-minute cleaning from Chametz, as well as distributing the 10 pieces of bread. So basically, the house should be pretty much ready for Pesach at the latest by next Thursday, because Thursday night, we're going to be doing the Bedikas Chametz, the search for the Chametz. Usually that's done the night before Pesach. Here it's taken to Thursday night. So there will be very minimal Chametz left in the house by Thursday. The house, most houses will be ready for Pesach by then already. And so the house will be completely prepared. The 10 pieces of bread, it's customary to have them wrapped up very carefully in paper, because this chametz will be burned, but we want it to be very contained. So, and that's for the searching of the chametz, which is done on Thursday night. It should be done immediately, as soon as possible on Thursday night. 7:34 approximately is the time that night falls on Thursday, and so that's the best time to be doing the bedikas chametz on Thursday night. Also on Thursday night, we'll be doing the searching for the chametz, as just mentioned. All the laws relevant to the Bedika are exactly the same as every single year. And this is all printed in a Haggadah and in your Pesach guides. Any Pesach guide will have the instructions of how to do the Bedikas Chametz, the search for the Chametz. It's done with a blessing, with a bracha on Thursday night. Even though it's usually done the night before Pesach, we still do it with a blessing as usual. After searching for the Chametz, the 10 pieces of Chametz that are placed, as well as any other Chametz in the house, we then nullify the chametz again, as printed in the Haggadah and in the Sidurim and the instruction books. You make a nullification, a statement that all chametz that I haven't found is nullified, called the Kol Chamira. That is done on Thursday night, as in a regular year, but a night earlier. And then you have to guard the chametz. After you've completed the search, you've got to be really careful to guard whatever chametz that you have found, as well as the chametz that you plan to eat. You can still eat chametz after the Bedikas chametz. We can still eat chametz until Shabbos morning, which we're going to see. So there may be chametz that you're planning to eat on Friday night, Shabbos morning. That all needs to be contained, guarded, and you have to know where it is. You don't want it to spread around because your house has now been checked. It's chametz free, except for the chametz that you plan to eat. So that chametz needs to be bagged, boxed, shelved, somewhere where it is safe and you won't lose track of it or lose it. This has all happened on Thursday night. On Friday, Erev Shabbos, Friday morning, we do the burning of the chametz. This should preferably be done before 12 p.m. on Friday. You should burn all of the chametz with the exception of the chametz foods which will be eaten on Shabbos, and any other chametz one plans to still eat on Friday. So again, that's set aside, but the chametz that you found, the 10 pieces of chametz you found at the Bedikas chametz, and any other chametz that is found in the house that you're not planning to eat should be burnt, preferably before 12 p.m. on Friday. From the letter of the law, you can really destroy the chametz later, right up until Shabbos begins. Because this year it's not Erev Pesach, we've got a day leeway, so technically you can still burn the chametz until Shabbos begins, but it's proper to try and destroy it before midday in the morning, not to leave it till later if possible. After doing this, after doing the burning of the chametz, we do what's called bitul, the kol chamira. Similar but slightly different to what was done on the night. On last night, Thursday night, we already said kol chamira, a nullification, that all the chametz is nullified and void like the dust of the earth. When Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, the second nullification, which is normally said after the burning of the chametz, is delayed till Erev Shabbos, which is when we burnt the chametz this time, after you've completed eating the chametz. Sorry, that's an error. It's delayed till Shabbos. So we don't say we don't do this on Friday. We do not do the kol chamira on Friday. We do it on Shabbos, on tomorrow morning, which we'll see when we get there up to Shabbos. But there is a yehi and a prayer that is usually said after the burning of the chametz and after the kol chamira. That is said on Friday after the bir chametz. It compares chametz to the Yetzer Hara, to the powers of evil in the world, and we pray that they should be completely destroyed. After burning the chametz, we do say that prayer. So again, on Friday we burn the chametz. We do not say the nullification of chametz for the second time. We leave that till tomorrow on Shabbos. But we do say the hiratz and the prayer that all evil should be vanquished like the chametz has been burnt today. That happened on Friday, preferably before midday, or you can really do it all day Friday. Continue on Friday, Erev Shabbos, the selling of the chametz. Ideally, by early Friday morning, you should have already organized the selling of the chametz. It is acceptable to do it until Shabbos begins, but it's certainly preferable to do it earlier because the rabbis who perform the sale of chametz, that they on your behalf sell the chametz to a non-Jew, will most likely be organizing that earlier in the day, even when when we're doing it on Erev Shabbos on Friday. There is technically another day to own chametz. You can own chametz the whole day of Friday, but the rabbis will probably perform the sale earlier in the day. So it would be much better and ideal to submit your chametz form before Friday. Don't wait till then. Do it now. If you haven't submitted your form, you can do it now. nefesh.org.au chametz, CHOMETZ. Or however you do it, but do it now. At the latest, do it Friday morning. But since what the rabbis do is that when they make the deal with the Gentile selling the chametz, they say that any forms that received after the sale should be included in the sale up until the beginning of Shabbos. So therefore, if you forgot, for whatever reason, to submit your form by Friday early morning, you can still submit it anytime Friday before Shabbos. But like many things like this, don't wait till the last minute, because if you forget then you miss out completely. Still on Erev Shabbos on Friday, kashering the house. So really you can continue kashering for Pesach, transforming your kitchen or any vessels that you want to kasher can be done on Friday, right up until Shabbos comes in. It's better to do it before 11 a.m. on Shabbos, which would be on any other year. That would be the limit, 11 a.m. on Erev Pesach. But it really can be done all day Friday. If you forgot to kasher something, you can still kasher it on Friday. Eating chametz, you can eat chametz all Friday until the next day, Shabbos morning at 11 a.m. So therefore, since you can still eat chametz, and on Shabbos there's an obligation to have lechem mishnah, 2 loaves of challah. So we do use chametz for that, both Friday night and Shabbos morning prior to 11 a.m. We're going to go through the details of that soon when we get to tomorrow, the next day. And so therefore for hamotzi, this is already on Friday, you need to arrange, because Shabbos you can't go shopping. Make sure on Friday you have arranged to have the bread that you need for Friday night and Shabbos morning meals. We'll see the details of it soon, but the shopping has to be done on Erev Shabbos, because of course on Shabbos you can't shop. And so you have to make sure that you have the correct amount of challah or bread for the hamotzi of Friday night and the hamotzi of Shabbos morning. Also on Friday, you need to prepare a 48-hour candle and light it before Shabbos, so you can light Yom Tov candles the next night on Motzoei Shabbos, on Saturday night. On Yom Tov, we are allowed to light candles, but only from an existing flame. You cannot light a match or a new fire on Yom Tov, but you can light from an existing one. And so here, because we've got Shabbos and then Yom Tov, already before Shabbos, you need to have lit a flame that you will use tomorrow night, Saturday night, to light the Yom Tov candles, because you can't light on Yom Tov, and certainly on Shabbos you can't light. So you need to have that existing flame. A 48-hour one I recommend here, because you also are going to need to light the flame on Sunday night for the second night Yom Tov. And so if Friday afternoon before you light your Shabbos candles, you light a 48-hour candle, hopefully that will stay lit until Sunday evening. The other option is to get 2 24-hour candles and light one of them before Shabbos candles, and then the other one you can light from the existing flame on Saturday night to last till Sunday night. Still on Erev Shabbos, the preparations for Seder. You can't do any preparations for Seder on Shabbos itself, and therefore all the preparations really have to be done Erev Shabbos. So by the time Shabbos is coming in, you've prepared everything needed for the Seder. These include cooking and preparing the meal. You are allowed to cook on Saturday night, but that might be too late to cook, at least most things. And so much of the cooking you will want to have done before Shabbos. And preparations for the meal you can't do on Shabbos, you will want to do them before, so as not to delay the Seder once Shabbos goes out. Also roasting the zroya, the shank bone or the chicken neck that is used on the Seder plate, that should be done before Shabbos. Cooking the egg for the Seder plate. Washing and checking lettuce. Lettuce has to be checked. That lettuce has bugs, and bugs are not kosher. So, and washing and checking lettuce, you need lettuce for the bitter herbs, and that takes a while. Do that all before Shabbos. You can't do it on Shabbos. Dicing the maror, grating the horseradish, that has to be done. Also, you can't do that on Shabbos. And keep it in a sealed container so it maintains its pungency and kick for when you eat the bitter herbs, but that should be done on Friday. Also, the charosis, the paste that we dip the maror in, should be made on Erev Shabbos. Alternatively, if you desire, you can grind it by hand on Motzoei Shabbos, because it's Yom Tov then, and grinding is allowed for these ingredients on Yom Tov. So you could grind the charasa then, but why do that? Do it in advance. You'll be much better off. And salt water, preparing salt water, preferably, you should prepare that before Shabbos. So have little containers or a big container of salt water that you'll divide up for the Seder. If you forgot to make salt water before Shabbos, you're allowed to make it on Yom Tov if you do it in a slightly unusual way, meaning you put the water in first and then the salt, instead of the salt and then the water. If you do it that way, then it's permissible on Yom Tov, but it's certainly preferable to do it before Shabbos. So that are all the preparations you need for the Seder done on Friday. And as far as cooking for Shabbos, so technically, Shabbos, you're still allowed to eat chametz. However, practically, your house is ready for Pesach. And it's extremely difficult to clean chametz on Shabbos because you don't have a sink necessarily that is available for that, unless you have a separate kitchen, a chametz kitchen that you're going to close up for the duration of Pesach. Practically speaking, the custom is on such an occasion where Shabbos is immediately before Pesach, that Shabbos is a Pesach Shabbos, meaning the food you eat is cooked on Pesach dishes and it is eaten on Pesach dishes and it is Pesach food. everything except for the challah that you make hamotzi on, which is of course chametz, everything else that you eat on Shabbos, practically speaking, should be Pesach food. We get an extra day this year of eating Pesach food for those who love it, and it's very healthy. And so, practically speaking, the Shabbos cooking is going to be Pesach food, all except for the challah. Now we get to Friday night. Shabbos comes. So as far as the Friday night meal, we make regular Friday night kiddush on wine or grape juice. You wash hands as usual, and you make hamotzi over 2 whole loaves of bread. Now, they don't have to be massive challahs. They can be any entire loaf, a full loaf. It can be a little bread roll, a bagel, or a pitta. And we'll see a pitta is sometimes advisable for this Shabbos. But it does need to be 2 whole loaves, just like every Shabbos. You can't use matzah because matzah can't be eaten before the Seder. And so we need to have 2 loaves. Matzah is bread, is a type of bread, unleavened bread, but you can't use it on the day before Pesach. So therefore, we've got this tricky situation where you've got a Pesach home, which is ready for Pesach. You can't eat matzah now, but you have to make hamotzi for the Friday night meal and for tomorrow morning's meal as well. So you need to have an exact amount of bread that's necessary, no more than that. Keep it in a Ziploc bag. Whatever bread you have, keep it in a Ziploc bag locked away. Use disposable napkins to eat upon, or a disposable tablecloth to eat on. And perhaps it might be a good idea for Friday night to make your kiddush and hamotzi outside, outdoors, in your garden, or somewhere away from your regular eating area, because you've got rid of all your chametz. The last thing you need is to be making hamotzi and making crumbs with this bread in your Pesach kitchen or in your Pesach dining room. So it might be a good idea to make kiddush and hamotzi away from your regular eating areas. How much bread do you need to eat? Every person has to eat at least the equivalent of a slice of challah. It's called a kibetza. You can't just have a tiny little nibble of challah. This is every Shabbos, by the way. Whenever you make hamotzi, you have to have a decent amount of challah, approximately a slice, like a slice of challah. So you have to have that approximately for each person. And so depending on how many people you have, that will be how much bread you organize for yourself. Throughout the meal, you should be careful that chametz crumbs don't spread through the house and parts. Don't walk around eating. Don't take it. Just have a designated area for eating the chametz. A good advice would be to use a less crumbly bread, such as pitta. Pitta doesn't make as many crumbs as a bread roll, so it might be good to use a pitta. And a pitta, by the way, is a complete roll. That's complete. Considered one challah. 2 pittas is 2 challahs. And flushing down the toilet. This is your food down the toilet. I'm sorry about that, but this is the best way to get rid of it. The bread should be eaten over a napkin or pre-cut paper towel, or like we said, like some type of disposable napkin, which can then be wrapped up and flushed down the toilet with any crumbs. It shouldn't be dipped onto the plates or any other item that will need to be cleaned from chametz as a result, because you want to maintain your chametz in one place, the challah in one place. And so if you've got a little napkin that can be wrapped up and flushed down the toilet afterwards, that is the best way, in fact, the only way to get rid of the chametz crumbs that you've had. So you've had kiddush, you made hamotzi, immediately then get rid of the crumbs, the leftovers, down the toilet. As far as garbage, it's a bit of a problem putting garbage out. If you live in an area with an EREV, then you can throw your entire tablecloth with all its contents in a public garbage bin outside. You're allowed to carry where there's an EREV, and you're allowed to put, if there's a public garbage bin in your area, you can put that little leftover crumbs into that public garbage bin, as long as you do that anytime before 12 p.m. on Shabbos day, which is the last time that you're allowed to own any chametz. You can also shake crumbs onto the street outside. The birds will eat them up. If it's out of your property, it's legal to do such a thing, and it's okay to just shake the crumbs out. But what you can't do is put chametz in your own garbage bins, because your garbage bins are still your property, and they're not going to be collected on time. We don't have garbage collections on Shabbos. So therefore, if you've put chametz in your garbage bin, it's still your chametz in your property, and you still own it. It's not good enough. It has to be either put into a garbage bin that is public outside, so therefore it's not yours, or the other, more likely alternative is to flush leftover bread down the toilet sometime before 12 p.m. on Shabbos day. And that. For this reason, you don't want to have more leftovers than necessary. You do not want to be blocking up all of the pipes of Bondi. Now we're on to Shabbos day itself, Saturday, Shabbos day. So we daven Shachris early. The morning service we do earlier than usual. And the reason is because the latest time you're allowed to eat chametz is 11 a.m. in Sydney. I'm giving Sydney times in all of this. 11 a.m. On Saturday morning is the latest time you're allowed to eat chametz. And you need to eat chametz because you need to make hamotzi on bread for the second meal of Shabbos, the daytime meal of Shabbos. So the chazan who's leading the service should be warned. Do not lengthen the davening. No schlepping out with extra tunes today, because we've got to finish on time enough to make kiddush and hamotzi before 11 a.m. to eat our Shabbos meal before 11 a.m. So how do we do that Shabbos day meal? Again, a regular Shabbos day kiddush over wine or grape juice. We wash and make hamotzi over 2 challahs or pita breads or whatever you're using, 2 complete loaves, and eat the required amount as we did last night, equivalent of a slice of challah, a normal slice of challah. All eating of chametz must be completed by 11 a.m. And so what you can do is you can just have kiddush and hamotzi, and that's it. You bench, and that's the end of the Shabbos meal. You've had the meal. The meal was just a bit of bread. And then you can eat a full meal later on. Or if you want, you can eat a full meal now. You can have bread, and then you can have fish and meat or whatever you're having for your lunch. But it all has to be finished by 11 a.m. Either way, the benching has to be done by 11 a.m. And either way, you can then have other meals later on in the day, obviously without any bread, because after 11 a.m., no more chametz. You should brush your teeth before 11 a.m. How do you do that? Well, you've got a bit of chametz crumbs. You've just had this bread. So you should clean your mouth out and your teeth in a way that's permitted on Shabbos. Brushing teeth on Shabbos is possible, but tricky. There are certain issues with it. One is squeezing, that sometimes a toothbrush absorbs liquid, and by brushing, you're squeezing out liquid, which is prohibited on Shabbos. There's another problem of drawing blood. When you brush teeth, if it causes blood, that can be a problem. And smearing the toothpaste, making it from solid into liquid, is also an issue. So you could use a toothbrush without water so it doesn't squeeze, or if you have a special toothbrush that does not have a problem of squeezing, certain toothbrushes are made in such a way. The simplest thing to do is to floss with pre-cut floss or with one of those flossers, and use mouthwash. There's Pesach mouthwash that you can get. Or you can just wash out your mouth with water, but to rinse and wash out your mouth from any crumbs that you just ate from your challah is important, and that all has to be done before 11 a.m. Then we do the nullification of chametz for the second time. So recall, after checking for chametz on Thursday night, we did the first nullification of chametz. Usually we do the second one straight after burning the chametz, but this year we do not. This year the burning was done on Friday morning. The nullification is done on Shabbos morning, sometime before before 12 p.m. So this is the statement you're making, that any chametz that I found or didn't find, if I missed anything, I'm nullifying it like it's the dust of the earth. It's not mine. It doesn't belong to me. If you do find chametz after 12 p.m., which is the time of the end of owning chametz, then it's muktzah. Interesting. You had challah in the morning as a part of your meal before 11 a.m., but after the time that you're not allowed to eat and own chametz, it becomes muktzah. You can't handle it. So if you did find chametz in your house that you forgot about, you missed sometime after 12 p.m. on Shabbos, what you need to do is cover it with some type of vessel, a bowl or something like that, so it's covered and not visible, and leave it there. Don't touch it. Leave it there until after Yom Tov finishes on Monday night, and then you need to burn it somewhere outside. You need to actually destroy it and burn it. You can't pick it up. That's true of chametz that you find after the time of owning chametz. Now, Shabbos afternoon, it's still not Yom Tov, it's still not Pesach yet. It's Shabbos afternoon. We have a nice long day. We've eaten our lunch before 11 a.m. So you can't set the table for Seder, and you can't do any other preparations until after Shabbos. One of the laws of Shabbos, of every Shabbos, is you can't do things on Shabbos to prepare for after Shabbos. And so setting the table for Seder is not a Shabbos thing, it's a Yom Tov thing for after Shabbos. You can't do that. You can't start putting the food into containers or into plates. You can't do any preparations for the Seder on Shabbos until Shabbos finishes, which is 7:30, 4 p.m. Sydney time. Sleeping is interesting. You are allowed to have a sleep on Shabbos for the sake of being awake at the night of the Seder. Even though that looks like preparing on Shabbos for after Shabbos, sleeping on Shabbos is a pleasure, an enjoyment of Shabbos itself, and so therefore it is permissible. You can even say, I'm going to sleep so I have strength to be awake for the Seder, because that's for a mitzvah. You can't say, I'm going to sleep today on Shabbos so I have the strength to cook after Shabbos, because that's preparing for work. But you can say, I'm sleeping so I can be up for the mitzvah of doing the Seder. That's okay, and it's certainly encouraged. And so while every year, certainly kids should have a sleep, it's going to be a late night, adults too, you want to be refreshed and ready for the Seder, sleeping is very much encouraged. As for the third Shabbos meal, one's supposed to have 3 meals on Shabbos, Friday night, Shabbos day, and then Shabbos afternoon. So those who usually would wash and have challah cannot do this on Shabbos afternoon. Some people who are strict about having challah 3 meals will have 2 meals before 11 a.m. So they'll daven very early, have what's called their lunch, have a break, and then wash again with 2 more challahs to have their third meal before 11 a.m. The Chabad custom is not to wash for the third meal, but to eat either meat and fish or fruits and vegetables. That is completely permissible and advisable to be eating on Shabbos afternoon. Remember, the Seder is starting late, and by the time you get to the food, it is going to be quite late. So you want to be rather well fed and had something to eat in the afternoon of Shabbos. You can't have bread, you can't have matzah, but you can have meat, fish, fruits, vegetables. Also, just to note, after Mincha, the afternoon service on Shabbos afternoon, we read a section of the Haggadah. This is usually done on the Shabbos before Pesach. In this case, the Shabbos is immediately before Pesach. We read a section called Avadim Hayinu. It's after Manishtana in the Haggadah until after the Dayenus. It's printed in the Siddur as a section to read on Shabbos Hagadol, the Shabbos before Pesach. And we also read a section which describes the Korban Pesach, the Pesach sacrifice, which was brought on EREV Pesach, the eve of Pesach. That is read from the Siddur as well on Shabbos afternoon. And finally, we've got to Motzoei Shabbos, the Seder. When Shabbos goes out, which is, again, 7:34 p.m., you should say, Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh LaKodesh. Blessed be he who separates between holy and holy. Now, that's interesting. Usually, on a normal Shabbos, when Shabbos ends, you should, before doing any work, say, Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh LaKoil. Blessed be he who separates between holy and mundane, between Shabbos and a weekday. But here it's Shabbos to Yontif. So we say, blessed be he who separates, Baruch HaMavdil, ben Kodesh LaKodesh, who separates between one type of holiness and another type of holiness, Shabbos and Yontif. You should say that statement, and that is a form of Havdalah. That's a form of officially ending Shabbos and therefore starting Yontif. So you should say that after 7:34, and then you can begin all preparations for the Seder, setting up the food and the table and everything you need to do. Only once the time has come and the statement has been made. As far as candle lighting for Yontiv, the candles are only to be lit after that time, 7:34, after saying Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh LaKoil, from an existing flame, as mentioned earlier, a fire that was lit before Shabbos. And what about Kiddush and Havdalah? We should make Havdalah for the end of Shabbos. We have to make Kiddush for Yontiv. We combine the two. And this is printed in the Haggadah. So if you follow the instructions of the Haggadah, you will go fine. But just be prepared for what you need to do. The order of the blessings of Kiddush / Havdalah is we make Ber Pri Hagafen, the blessing on the wine, the blessing on Yontiv, Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim, and then the blessing on fire, Ber Me'oreh Ha'esh, like we do every Havdalah, and the Havdalah blessing, Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh LaKodesh, who separates between holy and holy. It's a special Havdalah blessing, not the one we do every Motzoei Shabbos, but it's one that is specific for Motzoei Shabbos, that is Yontiv. And then finally, we make Shechianu, the blessing Shechianu, as a part of Kiddush. We don't say the blessing on spices, that we usually make spice blessing on Motzoei Shabbos, but not when it goes into Yontiv. We don't make the blessing on spices at all. Now, as far as the fire blessing, all of this is made over the cup of wine, holding the cup of wine like you're making Kiddush, including the fire blessing. Our custom is to say the blessing of Meirei Eish on the fire and look at the Yontiv candles that have been lit, the Yontiv candles that are at the table or near the table. We don't place the candles together like a Havdalah candle, and we don't put our nails up or hands up to look at them. Rather, we simply look at the candles after making the blessing. We just look at them and then continue with the Kiddush as mentioned above. So this is all printed clearly in the Haggadah. You don't need to memorize that part but just to be aware, there's not Kiddush and Havdalah separately. Kiddush and Havdalah are put into a bundle and made into one. That is, from then on, it's the regular Seder and it's Yontov, as would be any other year. You just follow the instructions as written in the Haggadah. So if I could say, we have a very special treat this year. The fact that we have this setup means we're able to rest more before Pesach. Usually you're working hard to get everything ready on the day before Pesach, right up until Pesach comes in, and you come to the Seder exhausted. This year, we have a great opportunity to come to the Seder rested. We have a Shabbos before. Not only do we have a Shabbos before, we've eaten our meal early. We have a whole long, beautiful day. And during that day, you have time to have a good rest, have a good sleep, have something to eat so you're not too starving at the Seder, and also to read a bit, read up on the Seder, on the Haggadah, prepare things, prepare some ideas, come into the Seder prepared, relaxed, rested. Shabbos is the best way to get into Pesach. Any questions? You can either unmute or write in the chat if you have a question. Also, you can email me with any questions, and I will send you also this presentation that you can follow the instructions yourself as the days unwind. Wishing everyone a great Yontov, a relaxing one, an inspiring one, an uplifting one, and a kosher one. All the best.